Have you ever stopped to count how many times you say sorry in a day? For many people, that little word has become a reflex, like a sneeze, automatic and often unnecessary. Apologizing for bumping into someone is polite, of course, but when you start apologizing for every opinion, idea, or even your existence, something is off. Imagine a friend who constantly apologizes for minor things. How would you react? I bet that after a while, it would be hard to take those apologies seriously. It's no different with you. Constantly apologizing sends a clear message to the world. You don't believe in your worth. And you know what's worse? Those around you notice it. Unfortunately, there are people who take advantage of this attitude. Over-apologizing can make you an easy target for manipulation, whether at work, in friendships, or even in romantic relationships. The world is not kind to those who erase themselves. Therefore, it's crucial to draw a line between humility and submissiveness. Ask yourself, is this apology really necessary, or am I just trying to avoid conflict? Replace sorry with something more assertive. For example, if you're late with a delivery, instead of saying sorry for the delay, how about trying thank you for your patience? This small shift completely changes the narrative and reinforces your self-confidence. Instead of emphasizing a mistake, you highlight the other person's effort and demonstrate emotional balance. Try it next time you're tempted to apologize for something small and notice how the conversation dynamic changes. Practicing self-awareness also helps. Start observing in what situations you apologize unnecessarily. For some people, this happens at work. For others, in social situations. If this seems like a pattern in your life, it might be time to work on your self-esteem. Therapy can be a great way to understand the root of this behavior. A self-awareness journal can also help. Jot down every unnecessary apology and what you felt at the time. Remember, apologizing without reason can also influence how you see yourself. Each time you say sorry unnecessarily, you are subconsciously telling yourself that you're not good enough. Instead, try praising yourself in moments of doubt. A simple "I did my best" can work wonders for your confidence. Gradually, you will replace the habit of apologizing with a sense of security in who you are. And you know what's interesting? This transformation starts attracting different people into your life. By showing more confidence, you automatically create a filter for healthier connections. Nobody is drawn to someone who apologizes for existing. On the other hand, those who exude confidence tend to inspire respect and admiration. That's a positive side effect of stopping the constant apologies. During today's video, besides the main topics, I want to share something that made a difference for me. Recently, I started using CineBoost, which has helped me improve focus, energy, and even reduce daily anxiety. If you want to know more, check out the pinned comment. And the best part, you only pay for shipping. Now, speaking of healthy connections, this brings us to the next point, where we'll explore an invisible enemy of self-esteem: bad company. Have you ever heard the saying, "Tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are"? Well, it couldn't be more accurate. Staying around people who constantly criticize, drain your energy, or manipulate your choices is like trying to swim with a weight on your feet. Gradually, you sink. Toxicity in relationships, whether friendships, family, or love, directly impacts how you see yourself and your emotional well-being. However, recognizing this is not always easy, especially when you've been stuck in the cycle for a long time. Imagine that friendship that always makes you doubt your achievements, or that coworker who constantly spreads pessimism. It might seem minor, but the cumulative effect is devastating. These people, even unintentionally, reinforce a narrative that you are not enough. The solution? Identify and limit these connections. A practical way is to list the people who influence you the most and ask, does this person uplift me or bring me down? If the answer is the latter, maybe it's time to reconsider the space they occupy in your life. Breaking toxic ties isn't easy, I know. There's guilt, fear of judgment, or even a sense of ingratitude, especially if it's someone close, like a relative. But one thing is certain, no one can thrive in an environment that undermines their self-esteem. If direct distancing seems difficult, start by gradually reducing contact. A good practice is investing more time with people who share your values and inspire you to grow. Be it a mentor, a study group, or even that optimistic friend who makes everything seem possible. To protect your energy, it's essential to set clear boundaries. Let's say you have a friend who always complains but never takes action to change. How about trying something like, I understand you're going through a tough time, but today I need to focus on positive things. Can we talk about something lighter? You don't have to be rude, but can still preserve yourself. Trust me, people who truly respect you will understand. When you start distancing yourself from toxic environments, something incredible happens. You rediscover your essence. Gradually, you realize those negative opinions were just noise, not absolute truths. Without that influence, your decisions become more authentic and aligned with what truly matters to you. It's like cleaning a dirty window and finally seeing the sun again. And remember the impact of your choice of company on your energy? Start filling it with connections that make sense. Seek activities that connect people with similar interests to yours. A course you like, a sports practice, or even cultural events. These experiences can open doors to transformative friendships that align more closely with what you're looking for. If you feel stuck in harmful relationships for too long, know that you're not alone. Changing can be challenging, but it's worth it. And speaking of positive changes, subscribe to our channel to keep learning more about how to improve your life practically and powerfully. Speaking of internal changes, let's explore the next topic, which addresses a more common behavior than you might imagine: phantom phone checks. How many times have you picked up your phone, unlocked the screen, and realized there was nothing new? No messages, no notifications. And yet minutes later, there you were doing it again. Sound familiar? This habit, known as phantom checking, reveals much more than just a simple distraction. It reflects an unconscious search for validation and can be a sign that we're placing our self-esteem in something external and volatile: others' approval. These constant checks create a vicious cycle. Each notification becomes a small reward, as if someone is confirming you matter. But when the screen is empty, an internal sense of emptiness can also appear. It's like playing an emotional lottery. Sometimes you win, but most of the time you lose. To break this pattern, try setting specific times to check your phone. For example, instead of looking every moment, limit yourself to regular intervals. This helps you regain control and prevents your peace of mind from depending on a red dot on the screen. A good practice is to disable non-essential notifications. You know that group chat that buzzes all the time but never adds anything meaningful? Mute it. This way, your phone becomes a tool for your convenience, not the other way around. Another strategy is to replace this habit with something more productive. For instance, instead of checking your phone, keep a notebook nearby to jot down ideas or to-do lists. Small changes like this can have a huge impact on your productivity and sense of achievement. Moreover, reflect on what you're seeking with these checks. Is it a desire for connection or an attempt to fill boredom? If it's connection, consider more genuine ways to connect. Call a friend, arrange a coffee meetup, or even start a conversation with someone nearby. If it's boredom, look for offline hobbies that stimulate your mind and provide lasting satisfaction. Painting, reading, gardening. There's a world of possibilities beyond the screen. And you know what's interesting? Reducing this digital dependence not only improves your mental health, but also gives you back precious time. Without realizing it, those seconds spent checking your phone add up to hours lost over a week. Try monitoring your usage with digital wellness apps. Many people are surprised to discover how much time disappears because of this habit. That shock might be the incentive you need to change. Another powerful tip is creating phone-free zones in your routine. For example, during meals or before bed, keep your device out of reach. This simple act helps disconnect your mind and allows you to live more in the present moment. After all, nothing replaces the depth of an eye-to-eye conversation or the serenity of an uninterrupted rest. Finally, remember that your validation doesn't come from a screen. You don't need likes, messages, or notifications to feel complete. Your essence and worth don't depend on something as fragile as others' opinions. Speaking of opinions, this brings us to the next topic, which addresses a common emotional challenge: hypersensitivity to criticism. Criticism has the power to either build us up or break us down, depending on how we perceive it. Being sensitive to criticism is human, but when every comment feels like a blow, something needs to change. Imagine someone who can't hear even a suggestion without feeling attacked. This person lives in an emotional prison, always defensive, always seeking approval. If you identify with this, know you're not alone, and there are ways to deal with it without losing your essence. First, it's essential to separate the critique from the intention of the person making it. Not every criticism is an attack, and not every compliment is sincere. Before reacting, ask yourself, does this criticism have merit? Can it help me grow? For example, if someone comments that you could improve your communication at work instead of shutting down, see it as an opportunity for development. Sometimes, criticisms are mirrors reflecting something we can adjust. Another key is learning to depersonalize feedback. Instead of interpreting criticism as an attack on your identity, see it as an observation of your actions. For instance, if someone says your report could be clearer, it doesn't mean you're incapable, but that there's a specific aspect to improve. Try to view criticism as a gift wrapped awkwardly. The content might be useful even if the packaging isn't attractive. Building emotional resilience takes practice. A powerful technique is self-affirmation. Whenever you feel hurt by criticism, take an internal inventory and remind yourself of your achievements. Let's say you received negative feedback about a presentation. Before internalizing it, remember a time when you were praised for the same thing. This helps balance the scales and prevents an isolated opinion from defining your worth. It's also important to choose which criticisms deserve attention. Not everyone has the competence or good intentions to evaluate you. The internet is a classic example. Anonymous comments can be cruel and unfounded. Instead of absorbing everything, ask yourself, does this person understand my reality? Is their opinion constructive? By filtering what really matters, you save energy to focus on what makes a difference. And of course, humor can be a great ally. Approach some criticisms with lightness. If someone says you talk too much in meetings, joke about it. Well, at least no one falls asleep, right? This approach not only disarms the critic, but also reduces the emotional weight for you. After all, taking everything seriously is a sure recipe for stress. Finally, remember, you are a mosaic of qualities and imperfections, like any human being. Criticism is part of the journey, but doesn't define who you are. In fact, what seems like criticism is often a reflection of the speaker's insecurities. By learning to manage these situations, you grow as a person and become more resilient to external storms. But what if the harshest critic lives within you? That's where the next challenge comes in, the dangerous habit of emotionally gaslighting yourself. Have you heard that little internal voice that insists on saying, "You're overreacting," "It wasn't that bad," or "Just let it go, it's not important"? That's self-gaslighting, a subtle yet powerful way of invalidating your own feelings. It's like an invisible saboteur infiltrating your thoughts until you doubt your own experiences and emotions. This habit is more common than it seems, but the good news is that with practice and awareness, you can silence this critical voice. A practical example: imagine you're exhausted after a long day, but instead of allowing yourself to rest, you think, "Others have much bigger problems than mine, so I shouldn't complain." It sounds altruistic, but it's a mental trick to deny your own need for care. Recognizing your emotions is the first step to building a healthier internal dialogue. It doesn't matter if the problem seems small to others. It's valid because it's yours. Reversing this pattern takes effort, but it's possible. Start with a simple exercise. Every time you catch yourself invalidating your feelings, ask, "If a friend were going through this, what would I say to them?" Often, we're more compassionate with others than we are with ourselves. Applying this logic helps turn self-criticism into kindness, creating a more welcoming and safe inner space. Another key point is differentiating facts from beliefs. For instance, feeling sad because a plan didn't work out is a fact. Thinking it happened because you always mess things up is a belief, and a very unfair one. A helpful practice is writing down your negative thoughts and, next to each, a logical response. This trains your mind to challenge automatic narratives and cultivate a more balanced perspective. Also, remember that the body holds signs of self-gaslighting. That tightness in your chest or tension in your neck often reflects repressed emotions. Activities like yoga, meditation, or even a simple walk outdoors can help release these tensions and reconnect you with your feelings. The goal isn't to avoid negative emotions, but to accept them as part of the human experience. Building a positive internal dialogue also involves celebrating small victories. Did something you thought was impossible? Acknowledge it, even if it's as simple as saying no when you wanted to people please. Small steps create big progress. Replace "I could have done better" with "I did the best I could with what I had." This shift in perspective can transform how you see yourself. Finally, understand that validating your emotions isn't a sign of weakness, but of courage. You don't need to be your harshest critic. The world has enough challenges as it is. And speaking of challenges, let's tackle one of the most common in the digital age: the harmful habit of comparing your life to others. You know that quick glance at social media that unintentionally turns into a session of self-criticism? You see someone with the perfect house, a dream vacation, or an impeccable body, and suddenly you feel inadequate. Welcome to the comparison trap. This habit is as common as it is harmful because it leads us to measure our worth based on carefully curated snippets of others' lives. The truth is, you'll never see the full picture behind a perfect photo. Uncontrolled comparison robs not only your peace, but also your time and energy. How many times have you dismissed your own accomplishments because they didn't seem as grand as someone's on Instagram? It's like running a marathon and, upon crossing the finish line, lamenting that you didn't run faster than someone else. The key is to understand that the race is yours alone. Focus on your progress, not on others' performances. A practical way to escape this trap is to limit your exposure. Social media can inspire but also be an emotional minefield. Why not set specific times for using it? Or better yet, curate your feed, unfollowing pages or people that trigger negative feelings. Replace these influences with content that encourages learning or healthy fun, like books, podcasts, or educational channels. Another important point is remembering that success is multifaceted. What may seem like a perfect life for someone else might not align with your definition of happiness. For instance, you might value creative freedom, while another person prioritizes financial stability. Both are valid, but entirely different. Reflect, what are your true values? Aligning your life with them makes comparison less relevant. Practicing gratitude is also a powerful tool. When you feel yourself falling into comparison, pause and list 3 things you're grateful for at that moment. It could be something as simple as the smell of morning coffee or a friend's support. Gratitude doesn't erase challenges, but brings clarity about what truly matters, reconnecting you with what you've already achieved. If you still feel tempted to compare, turn it into admiration. Instead of asking, "Why them and not me?" say, "What can I learn from this person?" This mindset transforms envy into motivation, helping you grow without feeling diminished. After all, each of us is at a different stage in our journey, and there's nothing wrong with that. Finally, remember that your story is unique. It doesn't matter if it seems like everyone around you is ahead. Your experiences, skills, and dreams don't have an expiration date. And speaking of unique stories, let's explore the next topic, which deals with a habit many of us use as a form of escape: sleeping to avoid reality. Sleep is essential for both body and mind, but when it becomes a hiding place, balance is lost. Many people, without realizing it, begin using sleep as a way to escape problems. It's tempting. In bed, the world pauses, and worries seem to vanish, at least until the alarm goes off. However, this strategy can create a harmful cycle, worsening the challenges you're trying to avoid. Using sleep to escape rather than rest is like sweeping dirt under the rug. Initially, it seems to solve the problem, but it's still there, growing. Imagine you're facing financial difficulties. Sleeping extra hours won't make the debts disappear. In fact, it can increase the feeling of helplessness when you wake up. Instead, ask yourself, what can I do today, even if it's small, to address this? A phone call, a plan, or even a slight budget adjustment can be initial steps. If emotional exhaustion leads you to oversleep, it might be time to explore healthier ways to recharge. Meditation, for example, can provide the same sense of rest in just a few minutes. Another idea is to replace excessive naps with a walk outdoors. Natural light and movement help clear your mind and even boost your mood. Small changes like these make a big difference. Also, pay attention to your body's signals. Not all excessive sleep is escapism. It can also be a symptom of something deeper, like depression. If you feel exhausted or apathetic even after sleeping, it may be time to seek professional support. Therapy is a safe space to explore what's behind this behavior and find strategies to address it. Reconnecting with your routine is another powerful tool. Create a list of simple tasks and achieve small victories throughout the day. This helps restore your sense of control and accomplishment, reducing the need to escape. For example, making your bed, preparing a meal, or calling a friend are simple actions that get you moving and lessen feelings of paralysis. And you know what's interesting? When you face your worries, you realize that many of them are smaller than they seemed. that difficult conversation, that tight deadline, everything feels more manageable when you take charge. Facing the problem can be scary, but the relief that follows is worth it. Sleeping should be an act of self-care, not an escape. Allow yourself to rest, to revitalize your energy, not to hide. And speaking of hiding, this brings us to the next topic, about something many people do without realizing. Saying yes to everything and everyone, even when it goes against their own values. Saying yes might seem like an act of kindness, but when it becomes automatic, you start losing control of your own life. Imagine accepting invitations, projects, and responsibilities that don't make sense to you, just to please others. Over time, your energy and time disappear, and frustration builds. This behavior, often tied to childhood trauma or fear of rejection, is more common than you think. But it doesn't have to be permanent. The first lesson is understanding that no is also a complete and valid response. You don't need to justify every refusal. If a colleague asks for help on an extra project and you're overwhelmed, try responding firmly. Unfortunately, I can't help this time. It sounds simple, but it requires practice and courage. After all, you're saying no to excess and yes to yourself. Setting clear boundaries is essential. Often, people who struggle to say no end up shouldering more responsibilities than they can handle. Create a list of personal priorities and use it as a guide. For example, if you value your evenings for relaxation, avoid taking on unnecessary commitments during that time. Each well-placed no is a step toward a life more aligned with your values and needs. Also recognize the signs that you're taking on too much. When you start feeling irritation or fatigue, ask yourself, am I doing this because I want to, or because I feel I have to? If the answer is the latter, it may be time to reevaluate your choices. A practical example is that social event you agreed to but already dread attending. Trust your intuition. The people who truly care about you will understand. Often, saying yes too much is linked to a desire to avoid conflict or maintain peace. But in reality, it can have the opposite effect. Suppressing your wants creates resentment that eventually surfaces. Imagine a balloon that you keep inflating. It can't hold forever. That's why practicing honesty with others and yourself builds healthier and more enduring relationships. Saying no doesn't mean being selfish. It means valuing your time and energy. The more selective you are with your yes, the more impactful it becomes for what truly matters. Start with small steps. Decline something that isn't urgent, but you'd usually accept out of habit. Over time, you'll discover the liberating power of prioritizing what makes sense for you. Finally, remember that life is too short to live for others' approval. When you take charge of your choices, you gain more time to invest in what truly matters: your dreams, health, and meaningful relationships. And speaking of choices, how do you plan to apply this knowledge in your life? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to activate the notification bell for more transformative content. Now that we've covered all the topics, it's time to reflect. How does all of this impact you? Let's continue this conversation in the recommended video on screen. Watch it to take the next step on your journey.